Live on tonight's show, I am covering the results of the second round of Marxist Madness. Looks like we're down to the Elite Eight. We'll cover that. We're also going to talk about the most recent column from Jim Jones, as yet another person has made it their life's work to be upset at the Idaho Freedom Foundation. We'll also talk a little bit about the state of America's libraries, not just Idaho's. I'm talking a little bit about a report that happened from the American Libraries Association. The results may shock you, and not for reasons they want you to be shocked about. We'll all go over it on Steph Lucas Live, and I am waiting for my fancy little Steph Lucas Live to come up, but unfortunately, it's not available, so just pretend it's there. You've seen it before. Let's launch right into Marxist Madness. Let's see what we have with the latest bracket. Here we go. Who's the biggest status in the Idaho capital? Take a look there briefly. And if you want to get in on this, we still have round 3. We're heading into the Elite 8. Let's look at some of our results. Oh, Bedke, he's still winning above 80%. Spoke with Dustin Hurst about this earlier this evening. He said there's been a lot of runaway contests, but some of the best matchups from those are Sime versus Winder. That's an interesting matchup. Plus, the one known as Red Flag Rod versus Scott Bedke. Now, that's kind of a wild matchup there. We'll see how it comes out. If you want to get in on this, just go fill out, well, first you have to go to Idaho Freedom Foundation's website. Then you're going to fill out your form, of course, about who the biggest status is at the Idaho Capitol. Lots of fun and prizes on the way for that. So that's what we have so far. We need your help to make round 3 happen. Get in on this. Can't wait to hear who you think the biggest status in the Idaho Capitol is. This week, of course, the legislative session has been a wrap-up, but it's still very disappointing for a lot of people across Idaho, myself included. I think we could have done a lot better this legislative session. Last show, I went over some of Wayne Hoffman and the Idaho Freedom Foundation's rationale for some of those really big disappointments. Today, I thought we would cover something else on Steph Lucas Live, and it does have some talking points from Wayne Hoffman, but somebody needs to address this here. Wayne wrote a very succinct op-ed that you may have received in your emails today. And what's it about? Well, same stuff, different day. Jim Jones is mad again. And I looked at Wayne's article, and I tried to look up the column he was talking about in particular. I was getting columns from this guy, Jim Jones, from all the way back in December last year, and I thought, these all kind of sound the same. I think Wayne sort of feels the same way, and I have, on my other computer here, we're using 2 computers now. It's a big deal. I'm going to read you some of these claims from Jim Jones in his latest work that has been published across Idaho's usual suspects newspapers. Let's go over some of the claims from Jim Jones that are false. First one, that the Idaho Freedom Foundation has worked hard to sabotage Idaho's public schools. As our friend Dwight says, false. Idaho's government-run schools, I like the way Wayne puts this, Idaho's government-run schools are doing a fantastic job sabotaging themselves by giving control to labor unions and exposing students to leftist ideology. It's also really not a secret that Idaho student test scores have remained flat and mediocre way before the Idaho Freedom Foundation existed. What the Idaho Freedom Foundation does is point out problems, recommend solutions, including universal school choice, which Jones has opposed. Very disappointing legislative session, of course, and when I bring up the disappointments in the legislative session, you will remember that one of those disappointments was the bill that was in House Education Committee. It was for school choice, which would, and let me explain this a little bit better, okay? It would take about $5,950, approximately $6,000, and that would go into an account. and parents would be able to use that account for wherever they wanted to send their kids to school. Private school, charter school, homeschool. You could do that. That's how it's done in other states. But it wasn't good enough for some legislators on the House Education Committee. Some of those Republican, that 86 that it never came out of committee. And so many parents and grandparents turned out in front of the House Education Committee to testify that they wanted that bill to go onto the House floor, which it did not. It's a real bummer for lack of bummer, that just kind of, that just doesn't express how upset a lot of parents and grandparents and just general taxpayers, constituents were about that. Lots of kids disappointed in that as well. So, does it seem like the Idaho Freedom Foundation is working hard to sabotage Idaho's public schools? Like Wayne says, they're doing a great job on their own doing that. Also, House Education Committee doing a great job sabotaging school choice. Let's talk briefly about, I believe it came out a couple of weeks ago, a report from Accuracy in Media. I played some of those video clips on Steph Lucas Live. What's happening on those video clips is Accuracy in Media did an undercover style report where they had school administrators from school districts in Idaho, Caldwell, Nampa, Boise, admit that social justice ideology and critical race theory were being taught in Idaho schools. They just were going under names like mental health or social emotional learning, which I also brought up on Steph Lucas Live, that Wayne Hoffman and Anna Miller have been warning people about for, I would say, the better part of a year, but it's been even way before that. Couple of years that they've been ringing the warning bell on this, that I have documentation on, articles Anna Miller and Wayne Hoffman have written. So yeah, schools are doing a great job on their own sabotaging themselves. Here's another claim from Jim Jones. The IFF tried to prevent folks of modest means from getting medical care. He uses the word folks. Why do people use that? I always say people. Maybe I should say folks more. We'll go over that another time. But what Jim Jones is saying is that the Idaho Freedom Foundation wants to prevent those of modest means from getting medical care. False. The IFF opposed the expansion of the state Medicaid program. Why? The Medicaid program was originally intended for poor and disabled people. The IFF is saying expanded Medicaid includes able-bodied, childless adults, regardless of income status. Their presence on the system not only takes focus away from the program's original intent, but it also comes as a much higher cost than originally projected. So there's the explanation behind that. Here's another claim, also false. The IFF stokes up conflict over any number of non-existent issues just to score political points. That is really a loaded statement, Jim Jones, but as Wayne says, that's double false. As Wayne Hoffman has said many times before, just go to the website, read the research that the team has worked on. It details the infiltration of critical social justice in our colleges, universities, and K-12 public schools. Accuracy in Media has detailed that infiltration of critical social justice theory, etc., in their report. He also brings up the use of critical race theory and the hypersexualization of children in Idaho has been documented. The Idaho Freedom Foundation has said this over and over. The media has done a disservice to their readers and viewers by ignoring the evidence in furtherance of the left's agenda. Like I said, once you know, you can choose to turn your head away, but don't ever say you didn't know. Because now you know. The Idaho Freedom Foundation told you. So those are some of the false narratives put forth by Jim Jones, who is mad again. It's really, if you've read one of his articles, you've read them all. I've read quite a few, but he's really mad about Idaho public schools. And of course, Wayne countered those points in this recent article that you can find on the Idaho Freedom Foundation's website. Oh, let's get back to the title here. I like this. The title of Wayne's article says it all. Jim Jones hates IFF because we hate socialism. That's it. in a nutshell. Remember, those claims are indeed false. Hope you get a chance to read that op-ed from Wayne Hoffman. Now, I am sure that another subject the Idaho Freedom Foundation has broached, and I'm sure many people are blaming on the Idaho Freedom Foundation. Let's just bring up libraries, shall we? Let's see, just a couple of weeks ago, the Idaho legislature had to pass a bill funding libraries. Let's back up a little bit more. About a month before that, we had House Bill 666 come through the House overwhelmingly. When it got to the Senate, well, actually, it didn't even really get to the Senate. Chuck Winder, Senate Pro Tem, just flat out said that bill wasn't going to go anywhere because there was lots of craziness in the Idaho House that just wouldn't stand in the Idaho Senate. So, Senate Pro Tem Chuck Winder, I guess, is arbiter of all things crazy. He seems to be the expert here. That's the impression I'm getting. But let's move on to why he thinks this is craziness. House Bill 666 essentially holds libraries responsible for providing obscene content to minors. And again, we get bureaucrats all across Idaho, librarians, Democrats in the House and the Senate say obscene materials at libraries. It's just not happening here. You get that a lot. Apparently, critical race theory isn't happening in Idaho, hypersexualization of children, gender ideology. It just isn't happening in Idaho. This is what you always get from the left. But when you have evidence to the contrary, the media just turns the other way. That's pretty much the 2022 legislative session. But what I wanted to talk about today is something that's happening on even a larger scale. What is that? Well, today I had the opportunity, I suppose, to run across a report from the American Association of Libraries. It was released on April 4th, so just a few days ago. The American Association of Libraries, I looked it up, they're a nonprofit, but it's about promoting librarians, what they do for a living. And I'm still going through this. But what I did find out is that it does promote libraries, library education. Internationally, they want you to know it's the oldest and largest library association in the world with more than 57,000 members. I would imagine most of those members are librarians because the newsletter spoke directly to librarians. The newsletter is written by their president. It's Patty Wong, I believe, out of California. You have to look this up. Just Google it, State of Libraries 2022, American Libraries Association. I'm still going through it. I'm pretty floored by the amount of indoctrination just being passed through the American Libraries Association, nonprofit, of course, but they were encouraging librarians to stay resolute in the face of Omicron and Delta. And then it went on to say librarians are now faced with a new scourge besides coronavirus, censorship. So here we go, right? What is censorship? Well, it's a lot in this newsletter that she writes in the intro, but there are a series of pretty big leaps. Patty Wong moves from painting librarians as activists that need to stay resolute to calling what I would think is concerned parents book challengers that she says try to ban materials they believe tell an unflattering version of our country's history, which is a complete misrepresentation. And she's basically upset about activist books that sow discontent being taken out of the library. So pretty sure she likes critical race theory. And then in the intro newsletter, she goes on to include the gold standard or the triumvirate of wokeism, diversity, equity, and inclusion. There's those magic 3 words that will send off a red flag when you're looking for evidence of indoctrination, Marxism, and essentially engineered outcomes, which is what this ilk from the left desires. Now, she says they are restricting. She's calling people book challengers. They are restricting us from books that support diversity, equity, and inclusion. So we go on to find out a few of the books that she is upset about being banned. And I wasn't able to get all of these, but she's saying this is a list of just some of the top 10 books that have been banned from libraries. So this is what she's upset about. You can see one's genderqueer. I've heard about this one. And this is in minors are able to get this, right? Reasons: ban, challenge, restricted for LGBTQIA content. Considered. So she doesn't say it has sexually explicit images. She says it's considered to have it. Okay. There we have Lawn Boy, more LGBTQIA content. All Boys Aren't Blue. Oh, I've heard of this one. Out of Darkness. It was considered to be sexually explicit. I saw some of the passages from that. Yeah, I believe this is a book. Several parents got upset at school board meetings over and were reading some lines from it, and the school board's like, shh, you can't read that here. Well, why isn't it in the library, guys? And then there's this one, The Hate You Give. You is in YOU. Do you ever sit and wonder how much time people that use just the word you instead of YOU, do you ever wonder how much time they really save instead of just typing out YOU? I don't know. I think about that sometimes. Anyway, banned and challenged for profanity, violence, and it was thought, see, there's that twisting again. It was considered to have, it was thought to have, it was thought to promote an anti-police message and indoctrination of a social agenda. So these are some of the books being banned that the American Libraries Association is quite upset about. What's this next one? Oh, they did like a little word picture here. So I just copied and paste that from the American Libraries Association page. And you really have to visit this report. It's something else. Anyway, reasons for challenges: obscene, sexually explicit, racially divisive, pornography. Oh, there's the indoctrinating kids, drugs, grooming, abortion, anti-police. So you can read that while I'm talking. Well, those seem to be good enough reasons to me for parents to be concerned, but the American Libraries Association is telling its librarians to fight what they're calling book banning and book challengers. Okay, so that's what's happening with the American Libraries Association. This is exactly the type of thing that Idaho House Republicans were telling us this last legislative session was happening. Okay? And we have the American Libraries Association saying, yes, this is happening, but it should happen. We need diversity, equity, and inclusion. So, again, on a national level. Now, I will tell you, and I think I'll have a clip of this up next week, where, as far as across a national level, let's see, House Oversight Committee hearing was yesterday about witnesses were there, mostly librarians, and they were upset about books being banned or at least challenged. Let's not even say banned yet. See, I can do that too. They haven't been banned. They were thought to be divisive, and the books have been challenged. So, House Oversight Committee hearing yesterday, and Representative Byron Daniels from Florida really gave I'm going to have a clip of this next week. He really gave quite a speech there. He was informing librarians on actually how taxes work, you see, because these people are paying the taxes. If they don't like what their money's going towards, it needs to be up to those taxpayers to do something about it, and that's what these parents are doing. And the librarians just seem to be very upset over that. They did not like being told how taxpayer money works. So keep an eye out for that. Yesterday's House Oversight Committee hearing on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. But if you need to know a little bit more about some of these books being banned, definitely go take a look at the American Libraries Association. And telling you, warning you ahead of time, they were very upset about any kind of book being censored for any reason. And then they go into a lot of other things. They also did a report on the part of the report on libraries. They brought up the January 6th insurrection. I mean, it was very political. So, this is just one of the things that's happening across the country. And again, Democrats and the media are telling you is not happening in Idaho. But it is. Just go take a look at the American Libraries Association and see what librarians are being pushed and told to do. And you can make that decision for yourself. I think that's all we have on Steph Lucas Live tonight. I would encourage you strongly to go to idahofreedom.org or Idaho Freedom Foundation's website or Idaho Freedom Action and get your bracket downloaded. You can fill that out for who you think the biggest status in the Idaho Capitol is. Well, that seems to be just about it. I hope you are having a terrific Friday. I'll be back next week. I think I'm going to have a little bit more on libraries. I want to play you that clip of Representative Byron Donalds from Florida explaining how tax money works. It was very instructive. I think you might want to pass that along to some of your friends. Made sense. This is what Idaho state representatives were talking about in this last legislative session. And it's worth revisiting again and again because I don't think it's going to go away. I think it's going to be an issue even more so in 2023, especially if you take a look at the American Libraries Association and what librarians are being told to promote and be activists. Just go take a look at that report. I'm still going through it myself. I just found it a few hours ago, but it's something else. Anyway, I want you to have a great night, and I will see you back here on Wednesday. We'll give you an update on what's happening with Marxist Madness as well. Your chance to vote for the biggest statist in the Idaho Capitol next week on Steph